Here with Jaryt Hunziker, the girls coach at Boonville, and Scott Humphrey, the boys coach at Centralia. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and how long you've been at your current schools and where you were before that?
Scott Humphrey. I'm the high school boys basketball coach and athletic director at Centralia High School. I started out at Westran for 6 years. I was the head boys basketball coach there, and then took the job in Centralia, and this will be my 6th year.
Jaryt Hunziker at Boonville with the girls program. I'm a Northeast Missouri boy, so I grew up in Cahokia, Missouri, but I moved down to Boonville about 10 years ago. So it's my 10th year here in Boonville with the girls. So I've coached both girls and boys throughout my career.
I was going to ask you about that. How many years did you coach boys?
I did it for, let's see, varsity level, 4 years. 4 years with the boys, and then started off doing the girls at the junior high level, and then eventually made my way back to the varsity.
What would you say is the biggest difference between coaching the two, and what are the positives and negatives of each one?
I think positives by far are girls they're pleasers, they want to do well. I've always told other coaches that you can take and kind of work a girls team hard enough, almost like you're coaching boys, and you can take an average team and beat really good teams doing so, just because I think sometimes harder work kind of beats that talent at times. So boys sometimes, and nothing against boys coaches, and I don't know if you guys would agree or disagree, but kind of a little bit harder to coach. Maybe think they know a little bit more than girls. Girls are more like sponges and kind of take in things that everything that you say and tell them.
Yeah. Scott, tell us a little about what your program is known for, and like stylistically what you tend to do year in, year out.
I would like to think my program's known for hardworking kids, very competitive. That's something that I kind of hang my hat on is, no matter what kind of talent we have or the age of kids we're playing, we're always going to play hard. You're always going to get on the floor for loose balls. You're always going to sprint up and down the floor, and you're going to have to show up and work hard to beat, wherever I'm at Centralia at the time. And that's probably what I hang my hat on the most. Stylistically, it changes from year to year. I'm not a guy that, I would call a system guy. I'm more of a, somebody kind of looks at the group they got, and if we can get up and down the floor and play and score a lot of points, we're going to do that. But if we got to slow down and grind it out and, try to make it ugly basketball to win, we're going to do that. So I've been able to, fortunately, I've had different groups throughout my career, and I've kind of had some success at both of them.
And so you'll kind of change your style depending on your personnel, is that?
Yeah, this coming year, or this previous year, and probably the next year or two will probably be a lot slower pace, and try to make it a half-court game, and muck up the game a little bit. When I first got to Centralia, we got up down the floor and took a lot of threes and tried to score a lot of points. And my good teams there at Westran were kind of the same way. We're wide open and just, kind of put the ball in my point guard's hands. I had a good point guard, good shooting guard, and, just let him play. And, it's going to be a little different. And I don't really have a preference in either one. I just, like I said, I want the kids to be competitive and want to play hard and very coachable kids. And fortunately, I've had that throughout my career.
Jaryt, on the other hand, you're more of you kind of run the same thing year in, year out. Tell us what your style is and what some of the things that your program's known for.
Yeah, we try to take in a couple of words we always use is like attack and disrupt. So we try to attack by pushing the ball on offense and get down in transition, trying to beat you back. And at the same time, defensively, we try to disrupt. Our identity, and people know Boonville Lady Pirate basketball is we 1-2-2 ball press. And what kind of makes us unique is we take and do it not only on makes, but we do after misses as well. So we don't give you time to take a break, and we're going to try to trap you a little bit, speed you up. It's a good thing about what we do is with different teams, there might be some years where we're more, when it comes to tempo, slow you down a little bit, but then we can take with more athletic teams, speed you up. Offensively, we run a motion offense where, coach, you run motion as well, depending on who you have, takes on different alignments. So there's times where we'll take and be more guards or 5 out. If we have a nice post, we'll get them posted up inside and more 4 out, 1 in. So we tweak things based on personnel, but we stay within the system.
Now, if there's any place that somebody wanted to find more information about your 1-2-2 ball press, is there any place that they could do that?
Oh, that'd be Sysko's video.
Scott, you're AD and boys basketball coach here at Centralia. Mm-hmm. Tell us how that has, you weren't at Westran, mm-hmm. You were the boys basketball coach. Tell us how being the AD has changed things for you, and does that add extra stress for you in season?
No, I don't think it adds extra stress in season. A lot of your AD work is done, kind of during the day like it would be for a teacher and stuff. I think the biggest difference for me is when you take yourself out of the classroom, PE weights is what I did in the past. You kind of miss those relationships you build with the younger kids coming in from the middle school or freshmen, sophomores that you may not have seen, and you haven't had time to build relationships with them yet. So that's something that I really try to prioritize and make sure, I got to kind of change my game plan about how you build those relationships with kids. But other than that, I really like my job. I really like what I do. I got good people that I work with, and I'm very fortunate to be in the situation I'm in, and I don't take that for granted. I understand that with a lot of responsibility comes high expectations, and I take that very personal, and I feel very confident in my job.
Okay. We're going to focus this session with kind of the middle of the season, the December time period. Tell me a little bit about, Jaryt, we'll start with you. Like, what does a typical practice for you look like just in general? Like, how do you structure your practices?
We cover multiple areas. We'll take in, transition game is a big part of our game. So there's going to be that first, quarter of the practice where we're going to take and do any type of up and down, it could be 1-on-1 full courts to 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s, disadvantage, advantage type drills, just because that's what we're going to see in games. So we have to make sure we focus on that. Defenses usually we'll cover that second quarter of the practice because, again, that's like I said, that's our identity. That's what we take and hang our hat on, and we want to make sure we cover all the breakdown drills needed. And then offense, we try to do offense towards the end before we do like special situations and because I think your legs kind of give over time throughout a game, so it's nice to kind of cover those maybe the last part of practice where your legs aren't as fresh as they were at the beginning of practice, and we'll sprinkle in all of our little shooting drills in between stuff and free throws, but our practices are very up tempo for us. You have to tailor your drills and stuff and your practices to fit what you do, and we wouldn't be how we were on the court if we were just a slow-paced practice.
And you have kind of a structure with how much time you spend in the length of your practices month by month. Can you walk us through what that looks like for you?
Yeah, especially with our system with press and makes and misses, keeping fresh legs is important to us. So the first month, we'll usually go around two hours, November to December. Every month it seems like we cut off about 10 to 15 minutes. So by the end, come December, we're only going that, an hour and a half or so. And then by towards the end of the season, it might be an hour 15 minutes, and that might be including breaking down film. So we just know by the end of the year we have to have our legs because that's important with what we do with our identity and everything.
Scott, what do your practices look like? How do you organize them and how do you structure them?
I'd say in the beginning of the year, a lot of it depends on when I get all the fall sport guys. I've been at two schools that have had really successful football programs, and a lot of times we don't. I get about two weeks of practice, if I'm fortunate, before our first game, and so we go about 2 hours, and I don't try to do any drill longer than about 3 to 5 minutes. It's something that I picked up from other coaches in the area that we just kind of try to keep things moving, and something that I've really incorporated here the last couple of years is especially early. We do a lot of physical drills, a lot of box out drills, a lot of being able to take care of the basketball, a lot of contact, and something that I think it's hard for some football guys to come in. They haven't touched basketball in a long time, and so dribbling the basketball, just the things you kind of take for granted, making a nice easy pass, it's not as easy as you think it would be in the month of December. So we really work on fundamentals for a while, and then we spend the last half of the practice getting up and down and really working on a lot of team stuff. But I try not to really focus on a lot of sets or schemes and things until we get to about Christmas break. You get about 2 weeks, you try to get them in shape for your first couple 8 games or something like that, and then you get to Christmas break and you kind of evaluate where you're at, and then you adjust from there.
Let's talk a little about Christmas break since we're talking about December. Jaryt, what's your philosophy on how many games you schedule over Christmas break, what you like to do, how many days off you give players, that sort of thing?
Well, I think everybody knows basketball is a long season. You're talking 4+ months, depending on how far you go in the postseason. And so I think there has to be that balance between giving them time to kind of refresh, but at the same time, not losing everything you've gained in that first month and a half or so. So, I think it is very important. I've had those years where we didn't play a game over break, and I thought we came back, we were very, very rusty. And I think that gave other teams the advantage when they did play. So I think having a game or two definitely benefits your program, especially with us.
Have you played in a holiday tournament ever?
We have. Like here at Boonville, we'll play in a shootout. I have played in holiday tournaments, but it's been a number of years ago. And even when I was playing in high school, we did, which was great. But on the other hand, I think it kind of took away from getting refreshed and resting your legs a little bit, spending more time with family, and not burning people out. So I think there has to be that balance a little
Do you
bit.
like the one game over break better than a tournament?
I think so, because think about when you get out of school, you're talking 22nd, 23rd. Christmas is around the corner. You want the kids to spend some time with family. You're coming back, about the 2nd to the 5th in January. So there's not a whole lot of time to put in a game. So maybe, like I say, one or two would be beneficial. And then you balance your practices. You try to give them a couple days off with a couple more practices in a row. But I think the key thing is just kind of balancing to let everybody kind of, like I say, refresh a little bit.
Scott?
When I was younger, I wanted to play as many games as you possibly could. And now that I've gotten older, especially now that I'm the AD and fortunately can schedule it, we've taken the Christmas break game out. And I think it's something that I feel like, kind of like what Coach said, I do think there's a rust factor when you come back if you don't play for about 2 weeks. But I think my teams traditionally get more out of, having 4, 5, 6 days off and, go be with your family, go celebrate Christmas, and then come back and you can have 4 or 5 strong, hard practices. And, you have that first game back, probably the first, week in January. And, it's going to be rusty. It probably will be. But I think in the long run for my teams, the break is something that's more beneficial just because, like I said, you could only have a week from your last football game to your first basketball game, and it can wear some kids down. And I've always said I need us to be good in February playing our best basketball. And if we struggle a little bit in early January because we're a little rusty because we had to have more time off, I can deal with that.
If your football program does go a ways in the postseason, what do you use the December, the Christmas break, that holiday break for? Do you actually put a lot of stuff in at that point?
That's when you're kind of fine tuning. Like I said earlier, you get about 8 games and you kind of see where you're at, and see what you're good at, what you like, what you don't like, your rotations. And so, those 4, 5, 6 practices, whatever you get in Christmas break, that's when you really say, okay, I think we can be a really good man-to-man team. We're going to really focus on that over break. Or, we struggle scoring the basketball, so we really need to put in some more sets and slow things down to make sure guys, this certain guy's getting a shot or this certain guy's getting a shot. And, I try to split the season up into about 3 quarters. You got your first quarter is December, you just kind of get what you can. Then you go into January and you kind of find, see where you're at after your adjustments, and then hopefully you're playing your best basketball in February and leads you into postseason play.
Jaryt, what are you looking for to get out of Christmas break in terms of your practices?
I think Coach was right. I think, fine tuning, I think it's important. You reevaluate what maybe you struggle with that first part of the season, and you try to continue to build on those things. And at the same time, I think that's a time to start working on things that you might try to incorporate that second half of the season, or maybe keep in your back pocket for when it gets closer to your conference schedule, districts. You can start introducing some of those things, because early in the season you're focused on maybe other things where you can't put everything in all at once. So you save a few things back to do over break when you have a little bit more time.
How do you guys deal with the frustration of kids that sometimes miss 2, 3 practices over Christmas break because their families are in another state or something like that? How do you deal with that?
That was one of my big reasons as far as kind of getting rid of the Christmas break game, because it was hard for me to justify being upset with a kid that was going to miss a Christmas break game because he's going on a family vacation. And I think as I've gotten older and I have my own family, I kind of value that a little bit more than the 23 to 26-year-old who just, let's play basketball all the time, and that's really all that matters. So I don't get as frustrated. Communication's the key for me. If you let me know, beforehand, hey, I'm going to miss so-and-so many practices over break because we're going on a ski trip or whatever it is, that's life. We live with it. Family first. I need them to be upfront with me. That's the biggest thing. The hard part will be when, you get that text message, hey, I'm not going to be at practice for the next 2 days, and you got that the night before. And so, that's when I tell my parents and players, if you communicate with me, 9 times out of 10, we can work it out and we'll be on the same page.
Sometimes it's hard to hold that against the kid too, because
100%,
the parents
yeah.
are a lot of times the ones that are.
Right. Kids, kids are, they're going to do and go where their parents want them to go. And so, it's hard to hold against them. And like I said, if the communication is there, we can work it out.
Jaryt, the kids missing over Christmas break?
Yeah, I think it's 100% communication. I've had great, good teams and great girls over these last, 9 years here, where they've taken our up for right at the beginning, and now we'll kind of hold them. There'll be some, where they have to make it up with some condition or something, but there'll be a little bit of accountability. But we don't discourage it one bit, because like you said, and now that I'm, I got a daughter who's in 8th grade, I kind of understand some of that stuff, and I see it a little bit different than when I was younger, and just kind of like what Coach said a little bit. So I think communication is by far the key there, and you just kind of work with it, because they're only that age once. They need to enjoy those things.
Right.
So as we get to the end of December, you've played 8 games, let's say. Let's say your team is struggling. Like, what point do you decide? I'll start with you, Scott. Like, what point do you decide that you need to make changes and maybe play younger kids, and what does that look like?
My philosophy has always been get to Christmas break, evaluate where you're at, and if that's when you're going to make, pretty significant change in personnel, that's probably when it needs to happen. And I just think you got to be very upfront. I've had teams that struggled coming out of the gate, and I knew there were some talented kids that were younger that we were going to give a shot to. And I think, again, if you're upfront with your older players, or you're upfront with whoever you're making that personnel change with, they may not always agree with you, but they understand, okay, I had my shot. And then you got to make a change. And that doesn't necessarily go for personnel change. It may go for schematic change. You may go into the season and think, we're going to get up and down and we're going to press everybody the second they get off the bus. And next thing you know, you're giving up 80 points and you're 1-7, and you think, well, it's time to go 2-3 zone and pack it in. So that's where I've always thought that philosophy is you get those 7-8 games and you kind of evaluate everything and you make your adjustments going in there. That doesn't say you won't make adjustments again later in January, but I think that's a good stopping point to make sure to make a change.
Jaryt, how about you in terms of making personnel changes or tweaking things over Christmas break?
Well, I think you got a group of girls or boys who they look to you to make the right decisions for the team. And sometimes you're not doing it because you dislike a player. You're doing the best is for that team. And if that's making a change, you be fair with it. And you definitely communicate. I think you can have a one-on-one conversation. If you're taking somebody out of the alignment or out of the lineup or taking minutes away, I think by communicating with that player, telling them why, showing them statistics, something to back it up, I think they'll take and respect you for it, and knowing that you have the goal of the team and stuff, priority number one.
Last thing for you, how competitive, Scott, are your drills and practices, and does that change as the year goes along?
In the beginning of the season, we're very competitive. I think it's one of those things where I try to run a very physical practice, and sometimes that kind of bites me a little bit, maybe with injuries and this, that, and the other. But we want to play physical. We want to be competitive. We want to be able to get after it. And I think that's how you want to play, that's how you got to practice. As the season goes along, I will back off that a little bit. Your legs. Basketball's a very long season, but it's kind of one of those things where you want to set the tone, and this is who we are, and this is how we're going to practice, this is how we're going to play. I think it's easier to back off on those things than it is to try to ramp them up there at the end of the year, because maybe that's not the way you're doing things. So I've always been one that, we're going to get after it, and we're going to go, and we can back off as the season goes.
Jaryt?
I think competition's huge. I think competition builds success and everything. But I also think once you get towards that middle, towards the end of the season, I value my players. I value their opinion, where I can, find that 1 or 2 players that I know that are going to be honest with me, and if I can ask them, can we go hard again today, or is this a day where we need to go a little bit lighter? I know they're telling me the truth, and I'll kind of gauge how our practice is based on them a little bit. But anytime we have practice, we try to make it competitive, and by backing off time by the end, that helps. We'll keep it competitive, but it'll just be less, an hour, hour 15 minutes.
Appreciate you guys' time today. I wish you both guys the best of luck for most of your games this year.
Yep.
And thanks for all the information today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.